Hello, friends, and welcome to episode number 111 of Nostalgia Talk. I'm James, and before I introduce the guest, I have to make a quick little plug here. Last summer, I worked on a TV series for Amazon Prime, and I am very excited to announce that the show, it's called We Were Liars. It will premiere on Amazon Prime on June 18th. It is based upon the book by E. Lockhart, which I didn't even know existed. I was literally invited to do this show for 2 days. I didn't think I would make it past 2 days, but I ended up doing a couple of days on this show. So be sure to check out We Were Liars on Amazon Prime on June 18th. It's going to look really good. And now, without any further ado, please welcome to Nostalgia Talk, Gene Barretta.
Ba-da-da. Thanks for having me. If I sound a little hoarse, I'm just at the tail end of a cold, so that's
Yeah,
all.
it seems to be. I just got over one. It seems to be happening a lot lately.
Yeah, this was like over 2 weeks of all that mess.
Oh, well, I hope you're feeling a little bit better at least.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I'm on an antibiotic finally, so zap it out of my system. But
That's good.
enough of that. Yeah.
Now, for anybody who doesn't know, Gene is an artist who has worked in multiple capacities and roles doing animation for television, most specifically Sesame Street. You'd remember some of his bits. He did storyboard art for Muppets from Space and also has written and illustrated children's books, some original, such as The Bat Can Bat, some biographical, such as stories about Steven Spielberg and Lincoln, and also for the TV show Between the Lions. He was a storyboard artist for the 1999 film Muppets from Space, and is a fellow podcaster with his brother, Muppet Performer, and hopefully a future guest on Nostalgia Talk, Bill Barretta. Be sure to check out on YouTube The Barretta Brothers, just the two of us.
Oh, you know what? We took off that subtitle, so it's just the Barretta Brothers now.
But it still is just the two of you,
It's just the two of us.
and
Plus,
whoever comes on.
yeah, yeah, of course. And we're about to have, just in case, I'll give a little plug. I don't know when this goes out, but on
Thursday.
Thursday, good. May 3rd, if you're down in the Pennsylvania area, we we're hosting our third year doing Muppets Take Mahoning, and it's at the Mahoning Drive-In Theater in Lehighton, Pennsylvania. And I've posted a bunch about it. I'll be posting more. And it's a great retro drive-in. They still are the only place to show 35 millimeter film with the old 1949 projectors, which have been upgraded, of course. But we have costume contests and puppet contests, and we always show. This year we're showing Muppets Take Manhattan and Muppet Treasure Island. And we have some cool video introductions by people that were on the film. And we're having Fred Buckles, who is a special effects person on these films and many other Muppet projects. He'll be there on the lot, giving a little show and tell and doing Q&A. So come on by. It's May 3rd.
To any listeners and Muppet fans in the Pennsylvania area, and if anybody is curious about it, I'll put links to Gene's social media in the description so that you guys can keep up with that.
Well, oh, and plus, what made me think of that is Billy and I will be doing a Barretta Brothers episode while I'm there on the lot. He'll be in LA and I'll be on the lot, which we've done before. Yeah.
Cool. I'll be sure to watch it. I
Cool.
love watching you guys. Like I've watched your podcast before. Like I watched my favorite was the Dave Goles birthday where nobody knew what it was.
Right. That was huge.
It really was. I was surprised by the amount of people you got.
I think that was even larger than the when we did the dinosaurs 30th anniversary episode. That was a huge one. That was only maybe our third episode ever. But the Dave one exceeded that as far as guests went. And
Yeah.
Billy, I have to give him all the credit because he wrangled all those guests on his own.
Hi Bill, if you're listening.
Yeah, hi Billy.
So, to start things off, how did you first become interested in being an artist? Like, what inspired you to want to get into that field? What style of art were you more interested in doing? Did you have any big inspirations?
Yeah, well, I've drawn since I was a young kid and would just always be copying comic books and characters I saw on TV. And there was a show called The Gene London Show, which was mainly Philadelphia and New York when I was growing up. And he would tell stories and sit at a drawing table. And as he was telling the stories, he'd be drawing it out. And that was just a small part of the show, but he was a huge inspiration for me, and I got to know him later in his life. But eventually, in my early teens, my cousin and I discovered Sesame Street, and this was in the early 70s. And we started making our own versions of the puppets, and got Billy involved. We would do puppet shows. Oh, and I sent a letter to Jim Henson because he wasn't really hugely popular at that point. This was pre-Muppet Show. He was, known for people who knew Sesame Street. So I sent him a letter because I met a substitute teacher at a school who knew people at Sesame Street, and I got an address. Never really expecting much in return, but I got a letter back from Jim I said, "How do you make Muppets?" And he sent me back instructions. So we would make Muppets and do puppet shows at my Aunt Kathy's school where she taught the deaf, and we would, it was mainly pantomime stuff, and we'd put the speakers on the facing the ground so they'd feel the vibrations of the music and all that. So I thought, so I explored not just drawing but also puppet making, and I was also making. Billy and I were making our own Super 8 movies, so I was exploring all the arts at once. But one thing that was consistent was the fine arts and cartooning and drawing. And so I took a detour though, and I went to NYU Film School and worked in that industry for a while, and to make this story a lot more shorter than it eventually I found my way. I met people who were writing and illustrating picture books, and thought this is a good idea for me. It fits my lifestyle. I'm a kind of a homebody, and I don't have to be away from home on sets all the time. I can tell stories with my artwork, still kind of, in a way, it was like making my own films still, only, I could still be director, writer, set director, actors, all that, just with the art and the storytelling and the text. Um, so I ended up in that field, which is where I've been for 25 years now. And along the way, done other work, some with Henson, some character design work, as well as the storyboarding you mentioned with Muppets from Space, things like that. And occasionally doing some background puppets if I happen to be on the set that day and they're short
Yeah, I
a
was just
hand.
about to ask you, did you have any like aspirations or did you ever think about becoming a Muppet performer at all?
No, not at all. We just really admired it. And I guess because when we first discovered it, we were just too young to think of it as a possible career. It just seemed, these were the Muppets. They're way out of reach. It's like, how could I even dream about being a Muppet performer? They're just untouchable. Uh, so yeah, no, it never did. And Billy never thought about that either. He wanted to be an actor, and he went to the neighborhood playhouse, studied acting, and went to LA with the idea of being an actor. And it was only because we knew Brian Henson that Billy started asking if he could go sweep the floor on the set of Dinosaurs, anything to have a job out there fresh in LA. And that's where that all started for him. But that wasn't his plan either. Neither one of us have ended up in in the exact spot we kind of dreamt about as younger people. But, you know, we've talked about that a lot too on some other shows where our big advice is, open all the doors and walk into all of them and see which one you like best, because you just never know until it's right in front of you. You
So, do you remember your first job once you started getting into designing and all that?
know. Well, for the children's books, you mean, or earlier on? Because which one, at what point are you talking
Because
about?
I think as I was researching for this, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think Sesame Street came before the children's books. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
Okay.
I was out in LA working film and TV, and I came back east trying to figure out what to do next. And Kevin Clash introduced me to one of the producers at Sesame Street, um, because he knew that they, every year. This is when Sesame Street. This was seasons 28, 29, before they changed the whole format of the show, and they were still hiring lots of independent filmmakers to make those cool shorts, you know.
Right.
And he knew I did some animation, and so he introduced me to one of the producers, and she showed me their curriculum for that year because every year they had a curriculum showing what they're going to teach throughout those episodes. And I took it home and I brainstormed some animation ideas, and that's and so I she gave me um, what was it, 3 films. I was able to do 3 1-minute films that first season and 2 the next. So that's where that started, and then it kind of it all followed a natural chain of networking because I started with Sesame Street, and then as I was doing that, I was also meeting people. Some of the same people who worked on Sesame Street were working on Between the Lions. And so I started meeting the crew of that and met one of the art directors who brought me in to do they did some children's books, with the illustrated versions of the lion puppets. And I also did the style guides for that show for the illustrated versions. Because even though
Wow.
it was past, I mean, this was well into the run of the show, but they had never really explored doing, um, I guess, illustrated versions, using them as illustrated characters for other products and things or books. And so they needed a style guide so that whomever was illustrating these characters would use that as their guide so there would be consistency in the style. So I was doing that as well as the books for them. And then of course by doing books, I started meeting people in the publishing world, and that led me to where I've been working for 25 years. So, yeah.
And for any of the listeners who don't know, Gene and I were talking about his works with Sesame Street with animation, and of course, Sesame Street's had some really classic animated bits over the years: Alligator King, Ladybug Picnic, the mysterious Crack Monster animated segment that's made a comeback on the internet in the last few years. But among Gene's works are the very famous, at least for some of
Uh,
us, the number 10 from Tennessee, which I remember from when I was a kid,
do
and
you? Oh,
C.
good.
Like, oh yeah, I have a VHS tape, The Great Numbers Game. I don't know if you have ever
Oh,
seen
yeah.
that, but it's
That's
Telly
right.
and Elmo and the kids going
Right.
through this number journey, and every number is a cartoon.
Uh-huh.
And for 10, it's number 10 from Tennessee. And the other one is Sea in Space. And for those ones, in addition to doing the animation for them, I read on Muppet Wiki that you also did the music for them too.
It was a real challenge to do those films because and I don't know if I guess I imagine this was the same for any of the people making the short films, but I really only had like about a month to do each 1-minute film. And that doesn't sound like a lot unless you understand the process of making these films. Because for one, I was working traditionally. I wasn't animating with a computer yet. I didn't understand the software at that point. So I was doing it the traditional way. Everything's hand drawn, and you're drawing basically like 12 motions to complete a second of film. So basically, I had to, well, for the ones, let's say that where I wrote and recorded the music, there was that, there was the time spent having to record the music and write it. And actually, you know what? That's not true. I actually wrote the songs before I made the pitch because she needed to, see the lyrics and kind of get the storyboard of what was going to happen while you were hearing the song and the animation. But I had to record the music, and then you make these timing sheets, which kind of maps out every second or fraction of a second of film. Because if somebody's saying, "Hi, how you doing?" and you're lip syncing it with your illustrations, you need to know when their mouth is saying "ha" or "you," or all of those. So there's time spent with that, and then get down to animating, several hundreds of drawings. I did have to hire a person to do the coloring because I just wouldn't have had the time. So I did all that within a month's time. And then I don't think that included taking it to the production house where they actually put it on video. But I do always like to say though that I I gave the first animation job to this woman named Suzanne Twining. Yeah, she did some of the coloring on two of my films, and she is now like one of the principal um, stop motion animators out there. She's worked on Coraline and Box Trolls
Oh, nice.
and Pinocchio, the new Pinocchio by Del Toro, was it?
I think
My,
so, yeah.
or was it? What isn't that? Yeah, yeah. So she's done lots and lots of those kind of films, which is really cool. But I remember when we were both just sitting in my den, drawing and coloring together. It was cool. So I don't even remember what your original question was.
Well, I
So
brought up the music
mhm.
of a lot of the animated pieces that you had done, like Number 10 from Tennessee, of course, was very country sounding.
Yeah,
Was music ever something you were interested in?
I did play in a band for a little while, late 80s, early 90s. I was in Philadelphia here, and we did some recording and we played in some of the clubs and things. I was doing that just before, and then we broke the band up and I moved out to LA in the early 90s. And then, yeah, so I got to get my rock band fantasies out by doing that for a few years. So yeah, it's just I've tried to explore all the arts in some way or at some time or another because I feel like they all kind of influence the arts all work. I'm not saying this properly, but you take you can take things from one art and inject them into another one. That's not what I wanted to say though. They kind of inform each other. That's the best way to say it.
Yeah, I knew what you meant. Yeah.
Yeah, you can kind of learn like let's say you're an animator. A lot of it has to do with timing. And, if you're a musician, that helps you in that aspect. And, they just kind of speak to each other.
Okay.
Yeah.
So storyboarding for Muppets from Space, what was that like? Because storyboarding is a little bit different than animation, but it's kind of similar to, as you were saying with drawing. I mean, in film school they taught us you don't have to be a perfect artist to
No.
do storyboarding. You just have to know how to draw.
Right. Well, I'm a perfect artist, and I no, no, I know exactly what you mean. Um, it's a little bit like a comic strip, but
I was just thinking that because, like, in comic strips, the characters are the same model every
Mhm.
frame, which takes a lot of practice.
Yeah, yeah. But it's also filled with lots of instructions and arrows and things showing the direction the character might walk or uh a new expression on their face and yeah, so it was kind of a learning curve for me because I had never done it before, but I had a sense of what what it took to do it. And it was oh, what was the name of the other? No, it doesn't say it there. Damn it. I'm sorry. But there was another storyboard artist with me. And I'm sorry I'm forgetting your name right now. And we would just we went out there a couple weeks before shooting began and were given the script and we each were given certain scenes and we're not really told what to draw. We're kind of given a sense by the script and then it's we kind of make up our own version as to what, the camera might be showing. And then they'll come in and say, okay, I like that, or change this. Or that. So at one point, we're just kind of freestyling what this might look like on screen. And then sometimes, I mean, I was on set for a little while, and sometimes they won't even look at the storyboards because they'll get an idea that morning, and everything, you drew just kind of goes out the window. But it's okay. It's better to be prepared than not. But it was great. Just, every time Billy and I get a chance to work on something together, it's always fun. And so
Yeah,
we
with
were,
you being storyboard artist and him puppeteering on that
yeah,
as of course Pepe, and probably one of his biggest breakthrough moments, I think, was Muppets from Space.
Yeah, and he was doing more than just puppeteering. He was doing some work coordinating, and I can't think of specifically what his titles were there. But yeah, so he was very busy all the time. And we shot it in North Carolina, Wilmington, North Carolina, and they at the same time they were shooting who man, see, this is my old man brain.
I think because I think that's the same studio that they did Dawson's
Dawson's Creek.
Creek, and I am a
Yeah.
huge Dawson's Creek fan.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, so every once in a while you'd see some of the actors walking around and stuff.
And two of them were actually in the movie.
Yes, that's right. That's probably why,
With
because they were
Pepe, of course, flirting with Katie Holmes.
I
Come with
see your
me to the
dog.
jacuzzi, okay?
So yeah, so it was a beautiful area. Um Billy and I were living together, and they gave us this nice little house that was on Wrightsville Beach, which is, because Wilmington is right on the coast of North Carolina. And for some reason, they needed that house for some other purpose. And so they moved us to another place on the island, which was like a four-story mansion with an indoor pool and all
Whoa.
sorts of amazing things. And it was just Billy and me for a little while. And then once I left, Brian came and stayed with Billy, but then we would have family come and visit, and we really tried to use the house the best we could, but it was like living in a lap of luxury for a little while making this movie. But I had to actually go back after a few weeks because I had to get start on one of my books, Neo Leo, because that had a deadline as well. Yeah.
So, do you remember what scenes you storyboarded for Muppets from Space? Because I know that storyboard artists tend to do certain specific scenes.
hmm Well, I wasn't given any because of, yeah. I mean, they don't necessarily in our case, they didn't give us scenes because they knew
Okay.
we had certain skills in certain types of scenes or anything. I don't even remember how it was divided up, but I remember doing one where they're invisible, and walking around in the hallways.
And Fozzie washes his hands, and it's like, Fozzie, what? We can see you. Well, Moss said always wash your hands after going to the bathroom. Yes, but not when you're wearing invisibility spray. Hands, both of them, up.
Yep. I have them in the closet over there. I still have them all. And there was some with like Miss Piggy on the set, where she was what was she, a reporter or a
She
news
was
anchor?
she managed to manipulate the crew into allowing her to take over for Andy McDowell's character, and she's just sitting there reading the cue cards like, "Hi there and welcome. I'm Shelley Snipe."
Right, right. There was that. What else? There was when they sneak up and talk to Ray Liotta, who's the guard at the
Right.
gate there. I did get to see him do his scene. That was one of the first things they shot, so that was cool. And meeting him. Um, I did the one where all the people are outside of Gonzo's home, and like there's these fanatics, like a woman dressed as Gonzo, giving him what did she give him? A pie or cake or something? I don't
I
remember now.
remember Kermit comes by and he's like, "What is going on?" And this
Yeah, yeah,
lady gives him a sculpture of Gonzo's head out of
that's
mashed potatoes. Like
that's
I forget where that's from originally, but
yeah. But I saw them shoot that scene too. That was early on, and the scene where Gonzo's riding the lawnmower. Uh, yeah, there was a lot. I did a lot of them, but
Mm,
there was one with one of the Bobo scenes. Um, yeah, a lot. There's a
mm.
lot. Yeah.
Muppets from Space was actually on TV not too long ago here. I saw it on the guide. I was looking for something to watch while I was having lunch, and I see it there. I was like, "Oh, I'm putting this on. No questions asked."
People always they have mixed feelings about it. It's
I mean, I can understand. I mean, I've heard Jason Segel talk about when he was trying to reboot the Muppets, he wanted it to be like the Muppets are known for being entertainers.
uh-huh.
That's what they do. The Muppet Show launched the Muppets as a franchise, but those characters were entertainers. Fozzie a comedian, Miss Piggy a
Right.
diva, Kermit the host, Gonzo a stuntman, the Electric Mayhem, the band. Muppets from Space, it acknowledged the fact that they're performers, but it didn't show them as performers. It just showed them in their lives.
Right. Right. Although maybe my favorite Muppet film is Treasure Island, where, they're completely different characters. But I
Yeah.
get your point. Yeah. We might have to, I think next year, Muppets from Space will be one of the films we show at Mahoning because we've shown now, after this third year, most of the features. So we'll have to think hard on that. I think the only features we haven't shown are Christmas Carol and Muppets from Space, but then there's all some other programs and things maybe we can work into
Yeah,
it.
like maybe like Muppet Wizard of Oz,
Yeah, those kind of things. Yeah.
Kermit's Swamp Year's Very Merry Muppet Christmas. I know that those aren't letters to Santa, like the long
Uh-huh.
form specials.
Although we've done Henson films too, like
Oh,
we did Labyrinth and Dark Crystal. So maybe we can even do like Happy Time Murders or something
or
or
Follow That Bird, Elmo and
right.
Grouchland.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, so we'll
Mhm.
see. I don't want to think about it yet. We still have get past this year's.
Fair.
Yeah.
So you had said that children's books was eventually you realize, okay, yeah, this is where I need to be, and that kind of started through Between the Lions. Actually, that makes me wonder, did you get to know Chris Surf at all? Because I mean, like Chris
Not
Surf is
not well, just
okay.
met him a couple times. Yeah.
Because his passion for reading, like in the like for Sesame Street especially, and
Right.
then creating a show dedicated to reading. I mean, like his father created Random House. I mean, Chris is one of the smartest people that I know. So yeah, I just was kind of curious.
No, only because, I worked from home. I didn't have
Okay,
to be on the set. It wasn't one of those on the set jobs.
right.
I did go to visit a couple times, and I was even an extra in the background of one of the episodes, which was
Like
really
human
cool.
extra or puppeteer
Yeah, a
extra?
human extra.
Oh
Yeah.
wow,
It was a scene where uh, humans were being given a tour through the library. I forget what the episode is called, but yeah, so I got to be one of those.
that's
But so I
cool.
didn't get to see many of the people in person, um, you know. But there were some of the puppeteers were on that show, like Peter, Linz, um,
Jen Barnhart.
Jim, right? Yeah. I trying to think who did the father. Well, no, Peter was the father.
Yeah.
I don't remember who did the two children now.
Oh, Pam Arciero was
Okay.
Leona,
Yeah.
and the boy was Anthony Asbury, and then Noel McNeil did him after.
Okay. I don't know either one of them. Oh, that's
Okay.
okay.
I
But
haven't had I've had Noel and Pam on this show, but not Anthony. So yeah.
yeah, I know Pam. I just don't know Noel and yeah.
No.
What was the
It's a
boy's
shame.
name?
Noel is an excellent guy.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't doubt it. Most of the
Yeah.
people you meet in the Muppet world universe are excellent people.
It's hard not to be.
It's really true that, I've been on a number of sets and things working, and there's no other an atmosphere or environment like a Muppet set. Everybody really is kind-hearted and makes an effort to enjoy their time there and make other people happy, and there's no backstabbing that you see like in a lot of cases and things. So I believe it.
Hmm.
I think in some way they all consciously try to carry on Jim's spirit, you know?
It's cool that you were on Between the Lions. It's funny. I asked Chris Surf if he ever thought about doing puppeteering, and he had said that on Between the Lions he would do it occasionally. And
Uh-huh.
the puppet captain, Catherine Mullen, was like, "If you move that puppet's mouth, I'm gonna notice."
That's funny. But yeah.
So, with books, one of the things that I find really interesting, and I mentioned it in the intro, is that you've done nonfiction books, nonfiction children's books, of course, but
Oh,
on the lives of people like Steven Spielberg and Lincoln and Kennedy. And I kind of was thinking about that as I was writing this, because I've seen like biographical films, like the Elvis movie, the Mr. Rogers movie, in which they actually work closely with the families
Uh-huh.
involved to do that whole life story. How does it work with books?
For the nonfiction, it depends on whether your subject is still living or was, recently living where there are living relatives.
Mhm.
Um, so like for my first three bios were about inventors and none of the subjects were still alive. It was, Ben Franklin, Leonardo da Vinci, and Thomas Edison. So what I always try to do with all of my nonfiction books, because I'm a real stickler for accuracy, is to meet historians, people who really, um, who I know I can trust with the information. People like for the Edison one, I was dealing with the guy who's in charge of the Edison papers, who has all of Edison's notes and papers and things. And Philadelphia, here you've got so many historians who can tell you,
Right. I didn't even think about that.
yeah, and you're walking where Ben walked and all that stuff. And Leonardo, that was a little tougher but I did find, a respected historian who looked at my stuff. And then so I'm looking at the books right here on the shelf. Lincoln and Kennedy, I really didn't. That was a little tougher. I really didn't have any experts that I can remember um, that guided me through the project as we went. Um, but I was able to, after a while, you find a way to verify the information based on the sources and where you found the info and stuff like that. The Spielberg one, there was nobody to talk to because I don't think he likes to talk to biographers, I've heard.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
yes,
Given that movie that was basically about himself, that he kind of changed it around, that kind of surprises me.
I think though that, and I don't, I think it's perfectly fine that, he wants to tell his story. And
Right.
so, um, and yeah, with the Fablemans, which I really liked a lot,
Oh, same. I was amazed.
yeah, so he obviously made changes and things because he was loosely based on his life, but um, so I think he did that for the sake of having a stronger narrative, maybe to tell us, to address the themes um, in a way that he found more effective. I'm guessing. With my book, I tried to stick to the facts as much as I could, and so I just read as much as I could about him. You see as many things as you can. You look for information everywhere you can. And I know, I found factual things that aren't necessarily, well, it's the best way to put this without, I have to be careful what I say. But, you know, I I don't know if I should say it, but he likes to tell,
If
he
it
likes,
involves profanity, we have a
no,
bleeper.
no, no,
Don't
no,
worry.
no. No, it's just
Okay.
more about, he's got the perfect right to tell his legacy the way he wants to.
Okay.
But sometimes the truth gets stretched a little bit. And so when the more you research, the more you find out what exactly happened. And, somebody said something about if the fiction is more exciting, tell the fiction or whatever that was. Um, so I didn't want to call out on anything. So I just, introduced some of that information in a way where I could avoid um, contradicting anything that he would want the people to know or the way he's told it. Because I love
Okay.
the way he told it in the Fablemans. It wasn't my place to twist the truth. So I just found whatever I could to tell the story. Plus, I'm writing for elementary school kids, so I'm really focused on the bigger themes and the things that they could relate to the most and things that will pull them into the story and relate to his experience growing up. And
Fair.
I,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I also I related to his story a lot because in when we were both in our teens, all we were doing was making films, and he was doing it like 10 years or so before me, I guess, maybe a little more. And also our parents were breaking up in our teens, and so I had both of those to you know to relate to emotionally and kind of do the best I could to try and understand his experience and maybe share that in my story. Um, yeah, so there was that, and then I've been the book. Well, I also, I did Muhammad Ali and George Washington Carver. There was nobody to really talk to, so I also spoke to some people that were experts in the subjects of Carver and Ali. Um, we did send the Spielberg book to Spielberg's offices, but we just never heard anything back. One thing that was actually interesting about that, I got my contract to do the Spielberg book sometime in 2019, and we have, I can, if anybody needs proof, there's the publisher's weekly announcements and stuff. But he wasn't really talking about his film at all back then. The first I was hearing about him going into production to make the film um, was it 21 maybe? What did it come out in 22? I
22,
think.
yep.
Okay. Yeah, maybe even 20 or 21. But then because of COVID and all that, my production was delayed a little. His probably was delayed a little. And my book ended up coming out a month before The Fablemans. So it was like a perfect coincidence that
Yeah.
both books were coming out at the same time. So I don't know, maybe he saw a book. I hope nobody would think that I heard about the Fablemans and then it's like, quick, let's get a book out based on his childhood, and went that route. I'd hate for him to think that because I did it purely out of, my admiration for him.
That's really funny that it came out at the same
Yeah,
time.
it's an amazing coincidence. Book came out in October, and I think his movie came out in November or December or
Yep.
something. And then the last my latest book that comes out in October is about the painter Andrew Wyeth's childhood, and he was a great American painter who painted mainly in the 20th century, a little into the 21st century. And his father, N.C. Wyeth, was known in the early 1900s and mid 1900s for his illustrations in picture books and things, chapter books. His whole family uh, are great artists in some capacity or another. And his family lived half the year in Chaddsford, Pennsylvania, which is only half an hour from where I live, and
Oh,
then half the
wow.
year up in Maine. So I got interested in him because one of the main Wyeth museums is there in Chaddsford, and that's where I grew to love his work. And I just, at one point, decided I want to do a book on his childhood. Well, no, at first, I just wanted to do a book scanning his whole life. And I presented it to them back in like 2007 or whatever it was, and they just said, you're going to have a tough time getting the rights to the artwork, and, no thank you. Eventually I came up with this idea to do a book based primarily on his childhood and his apprenticeship with his dad as an artist, and the whole theme of how an artist finds their voice at some point, and the relationship with his dad because his dad wanted him to paint one way and he wanted to paint another. And so it's not really even a book about specifically his type of painting or how he paints. It's more a book about the relationship with his dad and his future wife once he gets old enough, and his inner turmoil that he goes through to discover how he wants to paint and who he wants and what he wants to paint. So I became very good friends with all those people at the museum and his granddaughter, and my son's a good friend with his granddaughter, and I
Oh,
know all the
nice.
people that were with him on a daily, his personal assistant for 40 years. And so it was the perfect experience making a book. I just never wanted it to end. They let me go visit all these places that most people aren't allowed to visit because I just wanted to gather as much information as I could. So Oh, but I can add too, and this is something I'll probably end up talking about a lot when I do presentations with the book. The style of art is very different from the style I used in all of my other books to this point, because I usually had a style that's very lighthearted, semi-cartoon-like, things like that. But that wasn't going to work for the Wyeth book. And so I had to go through a couple years of evolving my style and finding a style that I could use for books that had a tone that was a little more mature. And that's why I ended up writing books that other people illustrated because my style wasn't going to work for them. And so it was a real kind of leave your comfort zone experience. I was really stressed out and very worried that I was going to make something that looked like crap and disappoint the Wyeth people and everybody. Um, but eventually I found a style that worked well, and only after a few years of trial and error. And the good news is that the museum people and the publishers all are very happy with what I've made. And so um, that was a big, that was a major experience um, in my career that came through this latest book. And I'll still do books with the cartoony style too, but now I have two styles I can work with, and I'm writing for other illustrators, so I just keep broadening the amount of work I can do and how much, and I can stay much busier because of that. So I know what did I talk for like 12 hours on that question?
That's okay.
I
Um,
keep thinking of side subjects and things that.
it's okay. So to wrap it up, I feel like a lot of Muppet fans listening to this would appreciate this question, but I mentioned this at the start as well, and it was on Tough Pigs, which is where I get all my news. The Bat Can Bat,
Oh yeah,
which featured little cameos from past and current Muppet people, both living and deceased. Can you talk
right.
about that?
Yeah, I can. I can even, well, I can't show you your audience, but have you seen the image? Have you
I
seen the
have,
book?
yeah, it was on the site.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Well, I've put, because I work, my work day is pretty
And I'll put
solitary.
the image in the edit, and any of the listeners
Okay,
can just
cool.
guess who's who.
Yeah, cool. I can send you a diagram if you want, so they can match the
Sure.
number with the characters. Um, so I'm by myself a lot, so I have to entertain myself when I'm making these books, and so I end up putting all these people that I know and love in the different books, starting back with Now and Ben, the Modern Inventions of Benjamin Franklin, which came out in 2006. Everybody on my mom's side of the family is in that one, and everyone on my dad's side is in another. And the Three Stooges um, make cameos in all my books since 2008 because it happened as a fun little joke in one of the books, and I just decided to keep hiding them. Do you know Three Stooges up there in Canada?
I do, yep.
Okay, all right. Wasn't sure as I was saying that. I'm not even like a major Three Stooges fan. I love them, but I don't, I'm not fanatical, but I just thought it was funny to have them appear everywhere. But then, so with the Bat Can Bat, these are homonyms, which are words that are spelled the same and sound the same but mean different things. Like the Bat Can Bat. He's a baseball player, bat.
Hmm.
And there's a spread that says wait a minute. No, I have to look. It says it has the theme of the book is animals playing sports. Uh, it's like the Olympics almost. So it's got a
The
fly.
Animal Olympics, that should be a thing. I
Yeah.
mean, we've seen that some animals are prone to doing tricks.
Yep. Yep. Well, here you go. I started the whole thing. So you've got a fly and a duck, and they're fencing. And the text says the point of fencing is to avoid the point of the sword. So the fly has to duck and the duck has to fly. So of course I needed
That's
an
that's
arena.
hilarious.
Thanks. Yeah, this one here. So, there's an arena and you've got a crowd of spectators. And so I needed to fill the stands with spectators. And I decided I'm going to make it all of the Muppet performers and a number of Muppet fans that I know, and there's a couple Muppets actually in the audience there too. There's one of my uh, there's Bobo. Hang on, let me look again. Oh yeah, there's Bobo, and then there's a monkey that I designed originally for a show that was going to be called Late Night Buffet with Augie and Dell. And then the puppet's gone on to be in some other shows and even
Yeah,
part.
Muppet puppets never go to waste, even
Right.
after unaired or failed stuff. It's just like, oh, we got this character, you put that in
Yeah.
the background or something.
Yeah, so those characters from Late Night Buffet, the monkeys anyway, have been seen on even like below, no, what's it called? Up Puppet Up
Hmm.
and some other things.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'd love to see Puppet Up. I'm friends with Patrick, so.
Oh yeah, cool. Well, actually, one of the monkeys, you know how Nicolette Santina is traveling the globe with Coldplay
I do.
performing.
Nicolette is a good friend of mine too.
Good. Well, she occasionally she has the full band with her,
Hmm.
and one of my monkeys is the guitar player in that band. I'm not sure what his name is offhand, but yeah, they show up everywhere.
Nice.
So yeah, so that was a cool thing to have to put everybody in there in the audience.
Yeah, there was like even Jim Henson, Richard Hunt, Jerry Nelson, like that, and of course acknowledging them is a nice tribute with them now gone.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Um, Yeah, so that's that's the fun I can have to keep myself entertained while while I'm back here by myself here. Yeah.
Well, that's all I've got here. Is there anything you want to say to wrap up?
Oh, well, I mentioned Muppets Take Mahoning.
Yeah, everybody make sure to check that out on the Barretta Brothers YouTube channel on May 3rd. Gene will be there, and of course his brother Bill will be there.
Be in LA. He'll be in LA. He won't be live at the event.
Hmm.
But it will be,
Yeah, but if anybody watches it, they'll be there.
yeah, yeah, and it'll be a live recording. And of course, we'll be putting out the the notices for the link and all that stuff. Um, Yeah, so no, I think we've covered it. I hope I
Yeah,
didn't talk your ear off. But,
all good.
that's what we're here for, I guess.
Exactly. Nostalgia talk, talking about all this fun stuff.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It was fun talking to you.
Well, thank you for coming on. Maybe one day
Well,
we could do like a mashup. Barretta Brothers Nostalgia Talk kind of comes together. That'll be
yeah,
fun.
we're actually Billy and I are doing a podcast later for the Mahoning Theater just to
Ooh.
help promote that like a week and a half ahead of that. So I'll be talking with him later on today.
Cool. Well, say hello to him for me.
Okay. Have you? So I'll mention that he should. I'll ask him if he wants to do your show.
I'd love to have Bill on. Like I've had quite a few major Muppet performers on here before, Peter and Pam and Marty Robinson, and Bill is such a funny guy. I'd love to be able to talk to him.
Yeah, okay, I'll let him know.
Well, thank you very much. And to all listeners, if you guys want information about the Muppets Take Mahoning, did I say that correctly?
Yep, you did. Yep.
If you guys want information about that, I'll put Gene's social media links in the description. And also in the description will be Nostalgia Talk social media links. Of course, you guys probably know where to go for guest announcements. And we have some upcoming guest announcements, by the way, that I'm very, very excited about. For some listeners, I won't go too specific into it, but we're going to be having a very familiar face coming on Nostalgia Talk soon once we finalize it. But that'll be announced on Nostalgia Talk's social media. You guys know where to go, and I will see you next time. Peace out.
Yeah.